News tonight in the hunt for missing Malaysia Airlines Flight 370. At this hour, the biggest search day yet beginning. 11 ships, 15 planes heading to the southern Indian Ocean, trying to race against time to find the vanished jet. As I said, the biggest search day yet, but it has been 4 weeks since the plane disappeared. So far, nothing. And the families of those on board are demanding answers, growing increasingly frustrated and angry with the Malaysian government for a lack of information. Several family members met with officials in Kuala Lumpur today, hoping for any news on what might have happened. Sarah Bajak was at that meeting. Her partner, Philip Wood, a 50-year-old from Texas with 2 sons, was in the process of relocating with Bajak to Malaysia when he boarded Flight 370. And Sarah joins me now via Skype from Kuala Lumpur. Sarah, I know you're there now. You're going ahead with that move that you and Philip are doing together. And obviously you're on your way back to Beijing shortly. You've been in my thoughts and our viewers' thoughts since you were on this program just days ago. How are you doing now?
I've stabilized a little bit. I think the first couple of days were just excruciating. They just ripped me apart. And then, you know, we had several weeks of misleads and misinformation that constantly changed. But in this last week, I think I've come to a realization that that for sure the flight is still intact and the passengers are still alive, because the sequence of information that we've been given actually all points to that. And that was the common theme at the meeting with the families. I believe all the other families feel the same way that I do.
So that it's intact and that the passengers are alive. You were at that briefing for the family members in Kuala Lumpur. Did you get any new information or anything to answer your questions?
We didn't. The only thing that they did is rehash all of the same evidence that they have been providing up until now, with the same interpretation. So they have a single path of pursuit, which is that there has been a crash. That's the only thing they seem to be exploring. And they completely and utterly avoid any of the questions that had been brought to the table about the obvious holes in their story. So I never actually went to any of the family briefings in China. I steered clear of them for many obvious reasons. But this one here in Malaysia was very interesting. The Malaysians are taking a much more logical, much more calm approach. There were several representatives from families who just kept asking the same questions over and over, the same ones I have, and the government refuses to answer those questions.
And when you talk about the flight path, and obviously, you know, as we all know, there were so many possibilities at the beginning. Then they said, well, we know for sure it's down in the southern part of the Indian Ocean, but obviously there's been absolutely no evidence of the plane being there, as you point out. Do they give you any new information or any backup data to make a case for the plane's flight path?
Nothing that hadn't already been said. And, you know, even within a single statement, there's always some contradictions. So on the one hand, they say Inmarsat has given, you know, very precise readings. And then on the other hand, they say, oh, but they've never really interpreted this kind of data before, so we're not sure about what they're saying. You know, they always give 2 sides of the argument in any statement, which contradict each other. But the one really unanswered question is this basic fact or reality that airplane flew for a very long time over Malaysian airspace. So, you know, how long exactly, I'm not sure, but if it was half an hour, 45 minutes, you've got a 777, an unidentified object that theoretically has no communication with the ground, flying over their airspace. And they're saying that their military just didn't see it, right? Or they didn't think it was a threat. They thought it was friendly. I don't believe that. The Malaysian military is quite sophisticated. They've got one of the best radar coverage systems in this part of the world. They're clearly hiding something.
And we're going to be talking to the opposition leader from Malaysia in just a few moments on this program as well, Sarah, because I know he has a lot to say about. He's actually the one who bought that radar system for Malaysia. But when you say they're covering something up, why do you think they would do that?
I think they're doing that to hide what's really happened to the plane. Now, whether that's purely a Malaysian activity or if other countries are involved, I don't know. I mean, I really don't know why or how they've pulled it off. But I refuse to believe that the Malaysian military ignored a 777 in their airspace. There was one of the family members, a young gentleman, who pushed forward an idea that he had notice from people he knew that the jet had actually been accompanied by fighter planes for some period of time, and there was some witness to that. Now, that's the first time I'd ever heard of that prior to this meeting, but that actually makes a lot more sense than a flight being ignored by the military. So I think we need to have better view into where that plane ultimately went and who's got it now.
And Sarah, you know, you've spent so much time, and obviously I know, you know, you're very emotional about it, but you're also very analytical going through this. And you really have come to the conclusion, you do believe it is intact, that somebody has custody or control of it right now.
Yeah, I mean, my heart tells me that Philip is still alive. I feel his presence still. I feel confident that he is still connected to me in reality, not just in spirit. And logically, it's the only thing that makes sense. And again, sometimes you just have to look at that one little nugget, and maybe all of the run up to it or the follow on from it don't make any sense yet. But I'm sure that the military in Malaysia knew that plane was there and has tracked it in some way. Now, whether they were in control of it or not, right, I don't know. You know, it could have been. Many people say it might be the United States that's involved. A lot of people are pointing their fingers at the Chinese. The Russians have been raised, but the general thinking across the families here, and even non-families, so people I've had a chance to meet with that are local Malays with some connections to the military and or security, they all believe this is actually a military operation of some sort.
All right. Well, Sarah, thank you very much. It's good to talk to you again. Thank you for doing this before your flight, and safe travels. Still to come, more of our special coverage of the search for Flight 370. You heard what Sarah just said. Our panel is going to talk about that. 4 weeks ago, this flight disappeared off the radar. And we have an exclusive look at how many other planes were in the sky that night. Sarah's point, they would have seen it. But we know how many planes were in the sky, when, and where. We're going to show you.